Security Dossier, securing the perimeter.
5 years down the line into the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari, what has changed in terms of the war on insurgency, and what are the gains so far made in the defense of the territorial integrity of the nation? What are the significant changes since the relocation of the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Tukur Buratai, to the Northeast Theater of Operations, where he has been leading the troops on the final onslaught against the insurgents? Furthermore, fighting insurgency amidst the COVID-19 pandemic, how has the military been affected in its operations? These and more will be our focus on Security Dossier today. I am Lawrence Audu. Welcome to Television Nigerian. You can also join us, join the conversation by dialing the numbers 0812-6846-333. I'll take that again. You can join us via the telephone by dialing the number 0812-6846-333. You can also share your comments, your views on the comment section on our platform, and also like and share this experience with your contacts. The program continues after this timeout.
For almost a decade, the Nigerian army have given their all to ensure that our dear country is not overrun by Boko Haram insurgents. Some have in the process paid the ultimate price, while many will forever live with indelible scars occasioned by their determination to protect the country, no matter the hurdle. Despite these, they have remained resolute and undaunted, and today, all territories the insurgents once took control of have been recaptured and normalcy restored. And now, for the first time in a long time, the end of Boko Haram is foreseeable. Therefore, the wisest thing for the remaining insurgents to do is to surrender today or face total destruction from the army. Remember, the Nigerian army will stop at nothing to ensure that total peace is restored in all parts of the country. So, be wise and embrace peace today, or get ready to be ruthlessly dealt with. This message is brought to you by the Coalition on Conflict Resolution and Human Rights in Nigeria.
Security Dossier.
Thanks for staying tuned. The Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Tukur Buratai, has said that over 1,015 Boko Haram insurgents have been killed since his relocation to the Northeast Theater of Operations, where he has been leading operations. General Buratai, who was speaking at the Mimalari cantonment in Maiduguri during a luncheon organized for troops to commemorate the end of this year's Ramadan fast, praised the troops for their gallantry and professionalism in the discharge of their duties. In another development, the Nigerian military has continued to make exploits against criminal and other bandits across the country and beyond, with scores of criminal elements neutralized while others arrested. Coordinator Defense Media Operations Major General John Enenche, while briefing journalists in Abuja, gave a rundown of some of the major highlights of military operations across the country. The report is presented from our studios.
Have been neutralized and others arrested throughout the country. Coordinator Defense Media Operations Major General John Enenche, who briefed journalists on the update of military operations in the country, said, so far, over 27 armed bandits have been killed in airstrikes by Operation Hadarin Daji, while 2 other militiamen have been killed by Operation Well Punch in Benue State, in addition to a cache of arms recovered from the operations.
Operation Lafia Adole. In this operation, you will recall that several members of Boko Haram terrorists and ASWAP fighters, senior commanders also were neutralized, and their logistics facilities, gun trucks, and other structures destroyed, as well as recovery of several weapons. These two occurred via our airstrikes and then ground operations. I will tell you that at the record stands at 20 BHT and ASWAP terrorists and some weapons, 6 AK-47, were recovered. Now, you look at Operation Hadarin Daji. Yeah, that one, the report was 27 neutralized, and then that was along the border between Zamfara and Katsina in airstrikes. While in Operation West Stroke, yes, the raid at Ghana's hideout took out 2 of them, and he escaped narrowly with gunshot wounds. In the same vein, we had 7 members of a militia group in Nasarawa State, Basa Militia, and the good news here is that those ones were arrested.
On the preparedness of COVID-19, General Nenche noted that 21 medical facilities have been made available by the Nigerian military, while over 80 medical personnel were concentrated in Abuja and trained on COVID-19 case management, infection prevention and control, who were thereafter deployed to different geopolitical zones of the country.
You will recall that at the commencement of Armed Forces of Nigeria's intervention in the containment of COVID-19 pandemic, the Nigerian military made available 21 treatment centers and infection prevention and control. Of these 21, in addition to that, we trained 80 trainers personnel, and that was at the initial stage of the pandemic. The Armed Forces of Nigeria also has increased its personnel, particularly the trainers' strength, by training additional 220, which will bring the total to 300. In the armed forces, that we are increasing our capacity for the medical personnel that will now key into the major effort now, the major drive of PTF.
In other operations, troops of the Armed Forces of Nigeria operating in various theaters across the country have recorded tremendous successes within the week under review. In Operation Lafia Dole, several members of the Boko Haram and ISWAP fighters and senior commanders were neutralized and their logistic facilities, gun trucks, and other structures destroyed, as well as recovery of weapons. This occurred in airstrikes and other offensive operations executed across the theater of operation. In the Niger Delta, the Nigerian Navy has recorded huge successes after conducting anti-illegal bunkering and crude oil theft operations. Meanwhile, the Nigerian Navy Special Boat Service has rescued 18 Chinese vessel crew members and arrested 10 pirates on interception of the vessel at about 140 nautical miles south of Lagos Fairway Buoy. From the Defense Headquarters, Abuja, Lawrence Aldu, TVN News.
Welcome back. You're still watching Security Dossier on television Nigerian. The administration of President Muhammadu Buhari is 5 years already. What are those visible strides in the area of security before his assumption and now? With me in the studio to discuss this is a regular face, one of our in-house presenters here, Mr. Dan Atai. Dan Atai, welcome to Security Dossier.
Thanks for having me.
And I would like to also remind you that we will be joined on the line all the way from Makurdi shortly by the Field Research Fellow, Global Amnesty Watch Foundation, Mr. Terry, on the line shortly. But before then, Mr. Dan, it is 5 years so far since the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari. And we also know that before now, a lot of security challenges abound in the country.
Of course.
How far so far?
Well, I could say that the president has shown capacity in the area of fighting the insurgency, especially the northeastern part of the country. And I would see, again, that the sagacity into which Lieutenant General Buratai, not Brigadier General, I beg your pardon, put into the fight against the insurgency was a marvelous one. before the inception of this administration, of course, we do know how Boko Haram threatened all our livelihoods and properties across the country, to the extent that they even, attacked the Federal Capital Territory, bragging with their flags, capturing local government, up to 17 of local government in the northeastern region, sacking our traditional rulers from their homes, maiming women, even raping them, capturing our girls up and down. At every time that we're expecting holidays, our minds and our hearts were, beating high because we're expecting to be terrorized or attacked. But the same is not true again. The story has changed, and all thanks to Mr. President's willingness to fight the insurgency headlong, and all thanks to General Buratai, who has displayed discipline as a military officer and a commander in that respect. I think I can say 75% kudos in the fight against insurgency and insecurity in the country. Apart from Boko Haram, we have the banditry, we have the other insecurity and problems that is affecting us, and then they have been dealt with, to the minimum, barest minimum right now. Before, you will recall that Boko Haram will come out threatening a sovereign nation like Nigeria, via audio and video, making all kind of, threats such that we couldn't even be sure of our tomorrow. We weren't sure whether we'll wake up and then see the next day or the light of the sun. But I think the army, I really give them the kudos, the armed forces, namely the army, the soldiers, the navy, the air force, and so on. This is synergistic fight has really dealt with the stronghold of Boko Haram, and I think in no time their elimination will be at the corner.
Now, a lot of a section of Nigerians still may not share the same view, that you've just expressed here. What do you think is responsible for
Well,
this?
it is glaring. If you said you are not sharing the same view with me, I have facts and figures as regards what I'm saying now. I didn't just make them up from the moon or from the sun. These are factual things that we have seen on ground. If you could recollect from 2000, let me say from 2000 down to 2014, the difference was clear between 215 and 219 or 220 that we are now. We heard so many states like Borno, Bauchi, and so on that were, a kind of devastated by Boko Haram insurgency and so on. So what we have now, we evidently that they put their flag down and say they have captured this place and it is their religious base and so on. Even the mosques were being destroyed, churches, nobody were going to church. People were inside. Men of God and even more imams were beheaded. We saw those things, but now, what do we have? We, at a time, you could even witness in Abuja here, Nyanya was bombed. Every Christmas, New Year, Salah, we must experience bomb blast. Those things are normal. So if you say they are not working, so what eliminated or what stopped this attack and the insurgency, and what has incapacitated them that they are no longer the owner of the local government that they claimed they had at that time?
Okay, before we go on, I noticed that our guest, one of our other guests, Mr. Terence, is on the line, but we've lost that call. But while we talk, we'll get him back online again. We'll just keep trying to reach him.
Okay.
But Nigerians seem to be in a hurry to see that the whole issue of insecurity, the whole issue of banditry and what have you, is eliminated completely.
Yeah.
Do you think the military, the Nigerian armed forces and the police and other security agencies are on track with what they are doing so far?
Well, there are factors militating against the fight against insurgency. If you ask me, I will tell you. One is the international factor and sponsors that, are like the shadows behind the Boko Haram insurgency. Then two, the political factor, which, the opposition party, politics should not be played with security of lives and properties at all. We see them being played here. And then the populists, at the same time, are making jest or caricature of the fight against the insurgency, which are evidently, 75%, even to 80%, from the assessment so far, from 214 to 220 now. And where those factors will continue to be, but if we have come to be patriotic enough as citizens, we will discover that it is not an easy thing for a military man. Our military are not even well taken care of now, if you ask me. The lower cadres, even down to the generals, they are not. If you want to judge or compare the state of our military with the first world countries, you will discover that we are far below average in terms of welfare. I'm coming. Okay. Now, so the motivational factor is another one there, which is why sometimes it looks derailed, that the fight is not ongoing, but it is really ongoing. But when you see the patriotic character and the disciplinary character being displayed by Nigerian armed forces, you actually give them kudos. I am not here to just eulogize them because they are performing, or perhaps I'm just supporting the administration. No, these are full of evidence. We are seeing them in the clear terms that yes, one, it is not easy to face one bullet from an enemy, not to talk of a terrorist. Yeah. And then you see your army going against the insurgency with all sagacity, with all motivation. I have watched their videos where they saying they go massively against these terrorists, and it gives me joy that yes, we have patriotic military men in this country still. You understand? Unlike what we had in the political era from 210 to 214, where politics seems to capture. And another thing I'll praise President Muhammadu Buhari about is that he ignored the political schemes that try to undermine his fight against the insurgency. He ignored them completely, and that is one characteristic of a leader who is focused in the fight against insurgency, because by the time you are deterred and then you are distracted from the focus of eliminating these insurgencies and the terrorists, I tell you, you will be consumed. So the man put his gaze on the elimination, never deterred. Burata is doing his thing. People try to play politics of ethnicism even in the military. He ignored them. The sagacity and the focus is, my God, and that is the result we are seeing.
We have been talking about the 5 years of President Muhammadu Buhari as a president and his efforts in the security of lives and properties of Nigeria, especially on the war against insurgency. We'll take a short break. When we come back, we'll be on the line to Makurdi, where we'll be speaking with our guest.
The question of leadership is a factor in this regard. To the success of the fight against the Boko Haram terrorists. And then you look at also the factor of morale.
For almost a decade, the Nigerian army have given their all to ensure that our dear country is not overrun by Boko Haram insurgents. Some have in the process paid the ultimate price, while many will forever live with indelible scars occasioned
Joining me on the line from Makurdi, Benue State, is a field researcher for the Global Amnesty Watch Foundation, Mr. Terence Kwanum. Mr. Terence, you're onto security dossier. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hello, Mr. Terence.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Okay, Mr. Terence, it is 5 years since President Muhammadu Buhari took over the reins of power, and we're looking at and examining his efforts in the fight against insurgency. What is your take, sir?
Yes, it's a very tremendous work that has been done in the last 5 years, because between 2008 and 2015, we had lost 14 local governments that were in the hands of terrorists And President Muhammad Buhari came with the leadership of Lieutenant General Tuku Buratai, and within 20 months, they were able to recover the 14 local government and clear out the terrorists from the Sambisa forest. So it was a tremendous achievement. And it needs to be seriously commended because it is what has never been seen in any part of the world in the war against terrorism. And at the moment, if not for the sabotage that the administration has met through community leaders and through some international actors, I think by now we would have been able to clear out the war against terrorism, and we would have been in the rebuilding process.
Mr. Terence, Mr. Terence, sir?
Yes.
What are those factors militating against the war on insurgency so far? Because Nigerians think it's taking so long.
Yes, we know that we have sabotage from international actors who have consistently been funding the terrorist activities within the northeast of Nigeria and some other countries within the sub-region of West Africa. In time past, we have had allegations from very serious organizations that have linked issues of terrorism to the French government, whereby territories that were colonized by the French government have become a safe haven for terrorists to always run when they are detected by our military. And at every time they cross the border and come back into this country, they come back more audacious and with more weapons to fight our own military. We know that international actors like the international NGOs, like Action Aid, you and I are aware that large sums of money were caught with their staff in very strange places like Abuja, Mungulu, and Madigali, where nobody needed some such sums of money. So there was a conclusion that they were the people that were wearing money and arms for the terrorist group. So there are a lot of sabotage from the actors, and then the communities themselves have refused to listen to our military so that they can be able to trash these terrorist guys out. Rather, they prefer to listen to the terrorists, and that is why sometimes we even have ambushes against our own personnel. And you are aware that at every time the people within the ICC camp, if you see these terrorists are coming, and then there is nobody within the community to identify the security personnel that this is the terrorists that have compromised. So there are lots of sabotage that are brought up. So by and large, with all this sabotage, the British have made tremendous effort, and at the moment, the terrorists have no camp that you can ascribe to them. They are just roaming the bushes like bandits at the moment.
Mr. Terence?
Yes.
The Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Tuku Buratai, in the past weeks has relocated to the Northeast Theatre of Operations, where he has been leading the onslaught from the front. What would you say could be the gains of his relocation so far in the last 1 month?
Yeah, the relocation of the Chief of Army Staff to the Northeast has clearly put in almost an end to issues of terrorism in the country at the moment, and that is why I was trying to drive the point that at the moment there is no camp ascribed to the terrorists within the borders of Nigeria. The complexity that is just remaining on issues of terrorism within our country at the moment is within the Lake Chad province, and you know the complexity of that province is that both Chad and Niger and Nigeria are linked to that province. Now there are rebels that have been domiciled across the border of Nigeria, but within the Lake Chad province that have been there over time. And there, it has become a camp. People recall our own Mamadu and the other guys also when Sambisa forest was cleared and they had no base, they ran across the border and they are in the Lake Chad province in the Chad area. So that is just what we have. Even the terrorists that we have in Nigeria at the moment are just roaming the bushes like ordinary bandits. They don't have camps themselves, and that is why today, I think in the past 2-3 years, we've not heard of any bomb that has gone out. We only see terrorist attacks where vulnerable civilians come across them. So it is a very huge achievement that President Muhammad Buhari and the people that have done to this country. We need serious commendation for what they have done, and we need the support of citizens across the country to be able to support them by giving intel and standing to protect their community and giving information to the citizens so that the remaining bandits will be cleared out and will break once and for all.
Thank you very much, Mr. Terence, for calling in to Security Dossier today. We look forward to having you in person in the studio next time when you're in town.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, sir. Mr. Dan, you heard Mr. Terence. What is your reaction to his comment, especially on the relocation of the Chief of Army Staff to the Northeast Theater?
Well, you could say that that relocation was bettered when at one time the Chadian leader was making a propaganda that he was actually fighting the insurgency and trying to demean Nigerian armed forces, which are actually, or were actually the ones, fighting the insurgencies in real sense. We do know that before now, what is that his name, that leader of Chadian?
Idris Deby.
Idris Deby was one of those accused, internationally accused, to be mastermind of, sponsors, one of the sponsors of Boko Haram. And why the fight against Boko Haram was actually not holistic in the first instance, especially during the Goodluck Jonathan's administration. So for him to come out now, because we discovered that there is a link between him and France, and that link was a kind of being shattered or something loophole enveloped, and then suddenly he started bragging that he is now going after the Boko Haram, which actually it was Buratai that was decimating the Boko Haramists. Now, the relocation became very, very eminent then, and then in order to finish whatever the remnant of Boko Haram in that area, and we are seeing results right now. We are actually seeing results. So it is not a thing for him to have relocated. We ask that he should finish the job now that the international body are aware, the United Nations organization are aware that yes, to end Boko Haram, the international politics of sponsoring insurgency in the country will have to be stopped, because we are aware already in the country, and we are not taking any chances at all, and that is what Buratai is actually displaying.
Okay, before I let you go, Mr. Dan, fighting insurgency in the midst of COVID-19 pandemic, what do you think are the challenges, and how do you think the military should merge the fight against insurgency and then containing the pandemic?
Yeah, you see, that would be very challenging, but at least they are still doing some technological and technical hygienic approach towards this, because what we have been witnessing, and that is another plus you will give to the Nigerian armed forces, in the sense that despite the COVID-19, despite all the weather condition, despite the unmotivational condition in terms of finances, logistics, despite all the negativities surrounding them, they are still patriotic out there. They are still sacrificing for the country, and it's a thing that we must give them kudos. Now, in the face of COVID-19, I think we saw in a video, I think 2 days ago, where they were throwing a kind of face masks to the Boko Haramists that actually surrendered to them before capturing them. And I think I will also ask that funding be made available for technological advancement in terms of how to arrest using technology, because you cannot arrest them physically now, and even we saw that they said those arrested were going to be taken to quarantine for 14 days before they move them to wherever they have to face the judgment. That is what I observe. So it's challenging, especially when the Boko Haramis are massive, when they are many in number it will be very difficult, of course, to put them or to make that arrest, especially when they are surrendering. And if they are not surrendering, of course, I and you know what the army will do to them already. So fixed marks from far distance can be sent to them, and or veil, the military can design veil, helmet.
So they are doing that already.
You understand?
The defense industries have produced
because even if they could produce armored tanks in the country under Buratai,
how much more PPE?
How much more PPE?
Well, we have been talking on the 5 years administration of President Muhammadu Buhari as it relates to the fight against insurgency, insecurity, and other forms of criminality in the country on Security Dossier. And my guest has been Dan Atai, who also is an in-house presenter on Television Nigeria. This is the much we can take on this episode of Security Dossier until we come your way again with another exciting edition of the program. My name is Lawrence Audu. Bye for now.